Hey, what's up guys? Dakota here with another one for you, and today's topic is going to be fall fishing tactics. What I like to do in the boat in the fall, and we're actually going to be starting a new series. We're going to kind of go each season, and I'll cover what I use in the boat. So first thing that I like to start out with, simple buzz bait. This is a Bass Hog Baits buzz bait. I'll throw this thing until the sun completely covers the lake. If there's shade, I'm going to throw a buzz bait. You don't have to really go crazy on your rod. Me personally, I like to use a medium heavy. You can't go wrong with a medium heavy. To me personally, that's an all-around good rod. A fast action reel, and typically I'm throwing 17-pound test. And another thing I like about the buzz bait is you can sling that thing up in a pocket. If there's cover in there, a lot of times it'll kind of just bounce right over it. And just keep your colors simple: white, chartreuse, black. That's mainly what I throw. I mean, I do have some crazy colors in my box, but that's more of the when the spawn's here. That's what I like to do. So a buzz bait's going to be one of your best options. I don't know why I said next, but it'll be all right. Jigs. It doesn't matter the situation. You can never say no to a jig. And I always have two tied on in my boat. I'll throw a jig on braid. Sometimes I'll even throw it on mono or fluoro. It just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. On a heavy action rod, or even, like I said, a medium heavy, you can't go wrong with it. And there's only two that I'll throw in the fall, and that's either a black jig or this one's kind of messed up from using it this past tournament, or like a crawl color, green and brown, or just straight brown. This is the Googan. I believe it's their swim jig. I can't remember the exact name of it, which is bad. I've got a million things in my boat, and it's so hard for me to keep up with all of them. But the black one here is a Bass Hog Baits jig. Again, you can't go wrong with these guys' products. And that's kind of the number one thing we look for as fishermen, is the best products we can get on the market. And I have to say, Bass Hog Baits, they've been really good to me. I know this is kind of off topic. You're like, oh, Dakota, you're rambling off topic about what you're throwing and your sponsors and all this. I'm just kind of clearing up everything in the air. A lot of people have had questions. So we'll go ahead and solve some questions real quick. Super sticky hook, 5/0 hook, excellent weed guards, everything's hand painted. Don Nelson over at Bass Hog Baits, excellent guy. He takes really good care of me. But that's kind of the basics on the jig for everybody that's been asking. Oh, and the skirts are another big deal. It's living rubber. His skirts are all living rubber. No silicone, so when this thing hits the water, it's gonna just poof. It's gonna have amazing action. It's not just gonna lay down on the bottom. It's actually gonna sit there, and that skirt's gonna kind of wobble around on the bottom with the current. But jig, I'm throwing it. If I can't catch a fish on anything else, I'm throwing a jig. You can throw it in anything, logs, trees. It doesn't matter. If you look over and say, hey, oh, that lay down over there kind of looks, I might lose a jig in it. Don't worry about it. Throw in there, catch the fish, go to your next spot. If you've got a good enough jig and it's designed like it's supposed to, you should be able to throw it in there no problem. Next off, this is a big one. Had a tournament a couple weeks ago, very well in. I actually got it tied on. Let's cut it off so I can show the camera. Spinnerbaits. Big spinnerbait guy. This is a Bass Hog Baits custom. I have a couple prototypes that I cannot show today due to, prototype things. But this one right here is custom. It's white and chartreuse, and it got put to absolute work, as you can tell. It's got an Indiana blade with 2 mini willow blades on it, custom. Nobody else makes them like this. It's paired up with a Mimic Baits paddle tail. Those guys are super awesome as well. Awesome soft plastics. I used a ton the past tournament. Didn't do really well on soft plastics. The fish just weren't having it. But spinner baits, like I said, they're almost like a jig, really. I mean, well, profile wise, they're not the same, but you could throw these guys up in some cover and they should crawl right through it. These bass hog baits, they eat through stuff. I don't know how they do it. I can pick up a Booyah or a Googan spinnerbait and throw it in the same place I just threw a bass hog bait, and it gets hung up every time. Don't know why. I don't know the different design, if there's just certain bends on them or whatever. I'm not a lure designer. I'm a fisherman. I just use what they give me to my advantage, and I'm just giving you guys my thoughts. And this isn't kind of like a favoritism thing. I mean, I've got Googan on my jersey. I've got Rapala on my jersey. I mean, all those guys, great stuff. Just it's that competition level where you're like, hey, this is better than this and this is better than this. You just have to find out what works better for you. But spinner baits are awesome. These tri-blades, they really, really do work. We'll talk about another one I kind of have. And I know a lot of guys, they probably don't throw this, but I'm not sure if I've got one tied on or not. I do. Or I've got one in the box. A Black and Blue Colorado bladed spinnerbait. I believe this is a 3/4 ounce. The willow blades, Colorado blades, they're golden, indented, and these guys put out a lot of thump in dirty water. Been catching a ton of fish on these recently as well. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I have, yeah, that's right. I can't show that to you guys yet. Let's get my willow blade box and kind of show you guys. This one, believe it or not, it works. Kind of looks goofy. Black and blue, another tri-blade, but check out those blades. If I can get them to spin. They're powder coated with blue and sparkle in it. Those work excellent. Not as good as the white and chartreuse for whatever reason. Just these fish down here in this dirty water. I know a lot of places upstate and different places, a lot of them guys are throwing black and blue and wearing them out, but down here, I had a guy ask me in a tournament, he said, what were you throwing? And I specifically told him, I mean, I don't always put out what I'm throwing out there, but I told him, I was like, hey man, I was throwing a white and chartreuse tri-blade, and he was like, that's crazy. He's like, you wore them out? And I was like, yeah. I was like, what about you? He said, I was throwing a black and blue Booyah spinnerbait custom. He made some adjustments to it. Well, I ended up handing him one of it wasn't one of my sponsored stuff. It was just kind of one of my extra ones I had. I handed it to him, and he called me about a week later. Hey man, this is really working for me. I never really thought, you know, white and chartreuse and dirty, super dirty water was going to work as well as it did, and sure enough, it did. Let's talk about Indiana blades. Here's a tri-blade. It's got a mini Indiana blade on it with bigger willow blades. That's a banger. That's bass hog baits as well. I don't know why I said willow blade. I have a ton of these tri-blade with the Indiana as a single blade and the two little willow blades. Let's talk about this right here. Booyah spinnerbaits. White and chartreuse. Willow blade. If I want to burn up a bank and go down a bank and find a fish, that's what I'm going to do. But other than that, it's pretty simple. But if you're ever curious on how to run that spinnerbait, just chunk it. Run down a bank. Throw it over a log. It does not matter. You will catch a fish. If it works like it's supposed to, it should crawl right through it. No issues. So we covered jigs, spinner baits, and buzz baits. Here's one I never really had any much interest in. It started growing on me. I'm not gonna lie. I've got two here that I've been using. The Googan clickbait, or kind of like a chatterbait. I'm telling you, I've been wearing the fish out on this thing. It's unreal. I'll run it fast. If I've got some submerged vegetation or whatever, and I'm trying to just cover water as quick as I can, I'm going to chunk this guy out there and just run it right over it. And the cool thing is you can adjust this arm to run it deep or shallow. And this is a custom Mimic Baits chatterbait. And it's kind of special because I believe it was the first one they've made. And I used this in my past tournament and had some good luck on it, just chunking it out there and kind of working it through stuff, and it picked up a fish or two for me. And sweet design. And like I said, I'm not a huge chatterbait guy at all, but it started working for me, and I'm growing confidence in it, and I think it's something in the future I might be more interested in throwing. It's definitely not my go-to. Here's one that we're gonna kind of talk about. I don't really throw it a ton, but it works. The Googan Baits Flat Banger. Rapala's got some. Just about everybody's got lipless crankbaits. The Flat Banger, I used it a couple weeks ago in that same tournament. I've been using it a lot here recently, especially in these rivers. You get down there and you've got 30 foot of water or 20 foot of water, and you know, you're like, hey, I want something I can throw wherever. I want something I can work all the water columns with. This thing right here is the deal. Just throw it down there, let it sink, and then run it right back up beside those logs, and a lot of times you will pick up a couple good fish on it. You could throw it up in a shallow area and work it real quick through, or even work it slow, as long as you can keep it up off the bottom. And this guy will absolutely obliterate fish. You can also use I can't remember what brand this is. This is an older one I have in my box, and it's basically chrome. But here in these lakes down here in North Carolina, I've learned that, I mean, there's bigger shad in there, but in the fall those fish will hit this as well. If you don't have any big glide baits or big swim baits, you could throw one of these guys out there and run it back to you. They'll hit it, I promise. Some light line, if you want to get kind of finessey with it, you can throw like 10 to 12. I'm sure for some guys that's not finessey, but on a lipless crankbait that's super light, I mean, you're going to want a downsizing line to get it out there. I'll throw it on a medium action rod or medium heavy action rod. I like lures. That's all I use in my boats, lures. But flat lipless crankbaits, super well. If you can get a crawl color this time of year, 99.9% of the time they can hit it. This is one that I've really been, there's a couple in here that I've been using a lot recently. There's one. There's two. And I've got another one tied on. If I can get it off the rod for you guys. 1 second. Square bill crankbaits. This is Googan's here. Throw this guy a lot of times. If I can't catch him on a spinnerbait, a buzzbait, chatterbait, I can't catch him on anything else, this is what I'm throwing. I'm gonna go target laydowns, same as I would with a spinnerbait. Target those laydowns. Don't be afraid to throw this guy up in there. If they're designed like they're supposed to be, throw it in there, work it right out of the laydown. Typically I'm throwing 12 to 14 on these guys, pound test. I run a shad color. If I've got a little bit of muddy water, I'll throw a crawl color. This is Booyahs. And another big thing, I mean, this one doesn't have it, but this is really important. Good rattles. You look for something like that in a good square bill. You want rattles. Down here in North Carolina anyway, they love those rattles. You're gonna throw this in kind of murky water. This and stained water. Really, really murky. And this I like to throw kind of like when there's a mix between that clear and dirty. You know, like I said, I'm throwing it on, I think I said 12 to 14. Medium heavy as well. You can burn a bank with these guys, or you can just work it real slow to the boat. And if it's, you can't get, I mean, Googan's crankbaits are 2 to 5 feet. And a lot of times, I'm not gonna lie, I look silly, and a lot of guys have made fun of me for it, but it's worked and it's caught fish. Chunk that thing out there, and you're already at 5 foot. You're working at 8.5 foot bank. Those fish won't come up off the bottom. I'll take the rod and go down in the water, and kind of hang over the side of the boat and reel it with almost about that far from the reel. Just for that little extra momentum, just so I don't have to retie. And it works. I've reeled up a lot of nice fish this year, and it's been a really successful year. Really looking forward to 2023 and seeing how that's gonna come along. But I'm gonna leave all my sponsors, everything I've mentioned in this video, I'll leave it in a link below. And if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I can do my best to answer them in the comments or in the next video, which will cover pretty much winter, because right now it's 90 degrees in North Carolina in November, so it makes absolutely no sense. If you want good fishing, don't come to North Carolina. No, I'm just kidding. It's really good fishing. But if you don't want bipolar weather, definitely don't come here. This is the only place you can be looking out the windshield of a truck and clear, and look in the mirror in the back and it'd be pitch black. It makes no sense. But other than that, I think we've covered everything in today's video, and if you guys have any questions, let me know. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one.